My name's Helen and I'm Professor of Software Engineering in the School of Computing and Communications. I started my career as a software developer working in the City of London and other organisations developing software myself. And I came fresh out of university thinking I knew all the answers and I knew how to develop software. And of course quickly realised that in fact I knew very little. And so I became very interested in understanding how to improve the way software is developed, both for the developers themselves, but also for the users, because at the end of the day, the software is to be used by somebody. So we want to make sure that the software is actually usable and supports them in what they're trying to do. And I saw a number of examples, I won't say too many, but I saw a number of examples where really the user's point of view had not been taken into account. And I saw software developers struggling with tools that really could have been designed better to support what they were trying to do. And that spurred me into looking at software practice and understanding how to improve software practice for my peers. So I'm interested in understanding and improving software development as it happens in the real world, in industrial settings. I look at both individuals, so individual software engineers, for example, why might they stay in software development? Why do they come to software development in the first place? So what motivates people to engage in this kind of activity? But also I look at teams, how do teams work? That's within the software development itself, but also in the wider organisation. So the organisational context can actually impact on the way software is developed, and hence the quality of the software and the kinds of outputs that we get from that activity.
So is there something that you're working on at the moment that you're particularly excited about?
So the thing is, because I look at human and social aspects of software development, that's quite a broad range of items, and I'd like to give you two examples of the kind of work that I do. One is very much at the software development end, and one is at the sort of user end. So I focus on the users of the software as well as the people who are actually developing it. In the software development context, I'm working with an industrial consortium who's funding us to look at the challenges that are faced in software development, and specifically in an area called agile software development, which is quite a popular method for developing software right now. We work alongside organisations, we actually go into organisations to understand the challenges that they're facing, really get into them and get a detailed understanding of what's happening, and then try to find research that will help them in overcoming those kinds of challenges and making things better, again, for the software developers. At the moment, we're working, for example, on one to do with remote working. It's quite common nowadays for a team to include some people who work maybe at home or maybe in a different location to where the main team is happening. In a similar kind of way to the fact that our students at the Open University are often on their own, sitting in their own homes, working on things. You have the same kind of thing with software developers sometimes are working at home on their own. So they're not embedded in the team context in the same kind of way. And that has implications for the way people share knowledge. It has implications for the way an individual could be drawn into the team, and indeed how the team itself can make the most of having that other person who's remotely available to them. So we've been working with a local company here in Milton Keynes to look at that in more detail and to help them overcome some of the challenges that they've identified in that setup. And it's going very well, actually. They're very pleased with what we've done. They've picked up some of our recommendations, and we're just at the point of starting to evaluate them to understand what impact has that actually had in the way they work. So it's a really exciting and interesting thing to be doing, to be helping people out there in their jobs. So as another example of the kind of work that I get involved with, which is slightly different, but is still in the sort of human and social aspects of software development, is to look at things from a user point of view and consider the way that software is developed for the users. So how do we develop the interaction side of the product, whatever the product may be? It could be a website, it could be an app to go on a mobile phone. There's lots of sort of wearables, think of Wii and gesture-related things. There's quite a lot of stuff happening nowadays that involves interaction from the user. And the kind of work that we've done here, just as an example, builds in fact directly on some of the work doing here at the Open University in terms of courses. So we were teaching a course in Botswana and a course here in the UK at the same time. And what we wanted to do was to understand how designers, so the interaction designers, the people looking at this interaction question, how did they design differently? Did they produce different types of design? What happened in the cultural context? So we were very much focusing on the culture between those two. That also was really exciting, very, very interesting. And although you'd have thought when you've got two sets of students who are taught exactly the same things, using exactly the same materials, assessed the same way, so everything appears to be exactly the same, they do actually interpret things quite differently. And we could identify differences in behaviour and differences in the social context which impacted on the kind of interaction they were doing. So again, that was really interesting because that allowed us to understand our students better as well as feed cultural aspects back through into the course itself.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how your past and current research is involved in module production and how it feeds into teaching?
Yes, all the time I've been at the OU, I've tried to make sure that I involve students in our research as best I can. We have a wonderful set of students out there who do really interesting jobs relevant to what we're researching. So I do try to bring students into research where I can, and that's sort of one aspect of it, but possibly a more important aspect is where the research can feed back into our modules. And again, that can be in terms of the specifics of the topics that we're looking at. I said at the beginning I work with software practice, so that means that we do actually use that experience and those activities to feed into the kinds of topics that we will have in our modules. So we really are using that as a base to make sure that our work is relevant, our modules are relevant. So we do it in that way, but also using some of the research projects and feed those into the modules. So not only are people being taught things which are relevant for practice, we're also trying to keep everything up to date with the latest research and what is happening. And as I said, that's what excites us. So we hope that will excite our students as well.
Helen, thank you.
My pleasure.